Hi, everyone. How are you? I am so excited to be here to talk about moneyality today. Moneyality is activating your mind to circulate your money, and that is the key to understanding where we're headed in our lives. I am going to be talking about, is having money part of your happiness? And we're going to talk about that for the hour. And I'm going to talk about how each one of these will be different for happiness for each of the five moneyality types. So, first of all, I wanted you to know that last week I have a job with the Boys and Girls Club where I do an after school program with children. And that program, we did vision boards for the students last week. And I have my vision board up here, and I was so excited. I was sat with them and I told them, I said, my vision board is to see that Moneyality becomes like a household name for people, for children. I want it to be in school systems because Moneyality is a course that I have designed that talks about how you think and feel about money. And there are five Moneyality types. Are you going to be a splurger, a person who circulates their money excessively and they like that instant gratification? Or you're a keeper, a person that really is like a fanatic saver and they love to have their money and see it in their accounts and know that they are doing something that is in their minds making them build their wealth. And we're going to talk about that. And then there is a tracker, which is a person that plans for the future. They are really rigid on their saving and understanding how money works for them. Trackers are big planners, like I said, but they also are very focused, and that can be an amazing thing as well. And then there is the adventurous person, and that's the adventurer. And the adventurer is a person who thinks about money. They know money exists. They actually enjoy splurging. They are risk takers, but they're also nonchalant sometimes that could possibly get them in trouble. And then there are the minglers, who are the heart of the five moneyality types, where they are the people who truly sometimes believe that money is not even necessary. And they are big relationship people, and they love the idea of when they have money to share it with people, or they'll loan you money and they don't think about, are you paying them back? They feel like if you ask that you really need it, that you are being sincere. So those are the five moneyality types. And I always say that I got into moneyality because when I was a child, I remember saving. My story is the 35 cents for snow cones or snowballs when I was little. And that is my favorite thing, is that I still love snowballs and that I saved. And because of that, I learned how to count coins and understand how to save enough that I could have 35 cents for however many days I wanted to have a snowball. And then I started adding additional things that I love, like popcorn and maybe a hamburger. So during that course of time, I learned how to use my savvy savings to budget as a 5-year old. And I will tell you that Moneyality, through all of my experience, has, once I found out that my two Moneyality types, my primary was a keeper, which is a saver, and my second one was an adventurer. I can go back and see how it has been part of my life. And they say it's part of our financial DNA. And I love that, because the thread of me, even today, is that I am a keeper and that I am an adventurer. And those two play off of each other. And it's a pretty good mix. Sometimes I really enjoy that I do have those mixes because I'm not so rigid as I used to be as a keeper. So tonight, I have been thinking about, I've read some articles. We're coming up on the holidays, but before, I know I just love to keep on talking, but my vision board, when I was thinking about coming up on the holidays and what is my future, I put on there that it's all about that money for the future. That's part of my vision board, and I can't focus in on it for you now, but it talks about that I wanted to level up and I really want to have Moneyality put in place by the first of the year. So it'll be an opportunity to get schools or after school programs, charter schools, or any facilities or even the parents. I really wish I had it able to launch it out for the holidays, for Christmas, so it could be a great present for parents to buy and purchase for their children. But you will be able to pre-order it by then. So I will be coming back with more details about how you can pre-order the course and have access to it. And that could be the gift that is well deserved. I mean, I can't even imagine how it can help influence so many people's lives, even you as a parent, a guardian, or grandparent, uncle, aunt, or whomever. And so for my previous shows, I want to congratulate myself and all the guests that I have. But I will tell you, this is my first time doing podcasts, and to be able to talk about something that I'm passionate about. But last month in October, I had some amazing guests. I started the show off with my mom, Kathy Collins, my sister, Sharon Shay Collins, my niece Raven Collins, and her daughter Cassidy. And it was tribute to 4 generations of the Collins women talking about their Moneyality types. And I love that show. That was my first show, and I just want to thank them for supporting me and getting me kicked off into this podcast life. And my second guests were the Ingram family, which is my best friend, my best friends actually, my best friend Yolanda, her husband Kevin Ingram, and their son Kellen. And we talked about their daughter Cassidy, who are Cassidy and Kellen are two amazing basketball stars. Those are my nieces and nephews. And we talked about their Moneyality types, and they were on my second show. And that was really like a husband and wife talking about their likes and differences and how they complemented each other. So I love that show. And my third show, I did the deep dive into Moneyality. So if you're listening, you should go to my YouTube channel, which is the YouTube channel is Miss Moneyalogist, and I will have that banner ticker that's going to be playing. I'm about to have that so you can see that ticker at the bottom of the page, and you'll be able to follow that. So Moneyality has been great with that guest. And then my final guest that closed out the month of October was one of my friends, my mentor, my advisor, which was William Harrison. He's an entrepreneur and he lives in Jackson, Mississippi. And he is around from my home area, but he talked about just being an entrepreneur and how he felt with his Moneyality scores. He was really a strong tracker and keeper, and he gave us different tips. He gave us 3 things that we should take away that will help you in the entrepreneur realm of life if you're interested in starting a business. And number 1, wow, I was just thinking about it, but number 1 was, let me just do them and maybe out of the order, but I know number one was your health, to make sure that your health is on point and to always really take care of yourself. And that is so important. And he and I kind of talked about that. So you could go back on YouTube and look at that. And number two was to get an advisor or get someone that's in the field that you're in to advise you, to mentor you. And if nothing else, just do a lot of studying of people that are in areas that you're in. And if they're not exactly doing what you want to do, there is some methods to how you want to do it that you could learn from someone. So that was his number two. And his number three was to enjoy the journey. And sometimes I am overwhelmed and I say, oh, am I really overwhelmed? But it's not that I'm just so overwhelmed. It's that I haven't just prioritized and been very strategic in making sure I stay the course. And I do enjoy that adventure part of me, enjoys being able to go out and do activities. I'm an extrovert. I like networking. I like mingling. However, I am focused. I have made it a priority that from now to the time of the end of November, like definitely by the middle of December, that all things that are Moneyality part of the course will be completed. And so I am on this track and I am excited about that. So I have really enjoyed this journey. This is my second month. So for November, there's a couple of different things I am going to be experimenting with. I am interested in doing some lives where I can have you guys come on and ask me questions and just kind of talk through some different situations. I want to do more conversations around the myths of money, things that we've heard from a child. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is, can money buy happiness? That's my big topic for tonight. And we're going to also talk about if money can buy happiness. We're going to be talking about the holidays coming up and purchasing power and being able to make purchases and not get into like the frustration of not being able to really say, is these good choices? Am I making good choices in purchasing? Am I handling my money responsibly? So we're going to kind of add that in as well. But before then, I also want us to know that Moneyality is something that I don't feel we think about enough, because as I mentioned earlier, Moneyality is really embedded in us, how we feel and think about money. And it's part of our financial DNA. And it can come, people say, oh, well, I grew up in the projects. Well, I grew up in the projects, but I still was a saver. I know there are people that I have friends that are wealthy and they are still splurgers. So there are different social economic classes that it doesn't impact. Whether your Moneyality type varies because of those things. And I want us to be positive. I want to uplift us to say that, hey, it's exciting to be able to experience life and not have things as a crutch that, oh, I grew up in this area or I grew up in that area. Not that I'm saying that those areas should just, that everybody gets out of them and it's just so easy. I'm not telling you anything about Moneyality is easy, but what I'm telling you is that Moneyality gives you a path that you can take to understand why you're making those decisions. Now, how you make the decisions is one thing. Implementing strategies to correct your decisions, that's what we would call probably the hard part of it. And anything that we're trying to make changes in is going to be a challenge, as we all know. So people say, oh, in 21 days you can change something. I've tried things 21 days and wow, then I just go right back. So it takes a lot of willpower, and that is important. And that right there is the key of why I want to be with children, and I want to get them really early so that they recognize how they feel and think about money, and they're able to start at an early age correcting that behavior and understanding that it is okay to be able to live within whichever moneyality type they have. So that is part of all the ongoing things. And so something else that I want to do. So number one, for November, I do want to start doing some lives and having people to have conversations with me and maybe ask me questions, and we have deep dive discussions about, the myths about money. We can also talk about the way that we get money and how we are, maybe not me as a parent, but how parents may feel when they're torn between the sacrifices of purchasing things for their children, relationships more with money. I mean, there's a myriad of things that happen around money. And I always say that this show is all about the money, because if money can bring us happiness, and some people say it cannot, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's say why, let's see how and why that can happen. So from there, I just want to again welcome you to Moneyality with Tanya Collins, the Miss Moneyalogist. And know that I am here to activate your mind, to help you understand how you can circulate your money. That is my big push for sure. And I also want to talk about my nonprofit, which is a big sponsor of Moneyality. I started a nonprofit called Some Kind of Way Solutions Incorporated. A few years ago, I started Some Kind of Way because I knew, and Some Kind of Way is SUMKINDAWAY. And I use the SUM because I always love math. And as I told you, that math was the reason that I was able to learn how to count and understand how to divide and all of these little intricate parts of money when I was saving as a 5-year-old. So the sum, meaning the sum total of how we feel about things. So Some Kind of Way just lets me know that there are infinite ways that we can get things done. And Some Kind of Way is created for me to have students get part of Some Kind of Way is kind of like going to be a big part of Moneyality, but Some Kind of Way is financial focused. It's a cultural connection organization, and it's life lessons. Something that I definitely want to share about me is that in college, I took my first major overseas trip at the age of 30. I think I got my passport and I was able to go to Japan. And from that moment, that trip to Japan, and I'm thinking that was the early 90s. And when I took that trip, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to travel and go places. And so unlike sometimes we talk about it, but we don't do it, I did it. So I actually went back to grad school and got a degree in curriculum and instruction with my emphasis in teaching English to non-native speakers. And my first trip overseas was to a country in Africa called Namibia. And so I'm sharing that with you because even when I got to Namibia, I still was very grounded in saving. And when I got to Namibia, I realized that their currency was different than ours. Our dollar was like 14 of their dollars. And that was something that I started Some Kind of Way Solutions for, is to be able to teach children the currency differences, to be able to take them overseas. That's one of my goals for that nonprofit. And just to have experiences here in life, like the life lessons you get from traveling are unbelievable. I actually have learned so much, and it has fine-tuned me to understand how I choose to circulate my money as well. Like in Moneyality, we don't spend money, we circulate money. And so circulating means that it comes back to us, and spending just means like it's just gone but never to return. And I don't feel like that's really how the universe works. So when I think about some kind of way solutions, it's like a really big part of how creating Moneyality is still to push for children. And so that nonprofit is my anchor. I'm excited to be able to eventually start using that platform as a way to reach children and to further my goals with not only teaching them about Moneyality and their Moneyality types, but also to get them on the path so much earlier than me, like starting to go out of the country at 30 and letting them have experiences a lot faster than that, just as there are other organizations that do it. So I'm thinking, why not let's get lots of kids over, especially kids that are looking like me, African American kids, or kids of Hispanic kids, or whomever. I will definitely push to show any child that's from an environment that want to expand what they know and get them out of the rim of their neighborhood. Because coming from a small town in Mississippi, when I told you I call myself a Ritz girl, a woman raised in the SIP in Mississippi, I never probably would have thought so much that I was going to be as international as I am now, and living in 3 countries, I think, traveled to probably about 30. And all of that has been done within 23 years. So it's a lot, and I'm excited about it. And I used to kind of think like, wow, did you need a lot of money? But I didn't, because that's again one of the things that I'm going to talk about is that um, when you are in other countries, their currency really makes a difference in how you tend to splurge, or how you use and uh, take care of yourself in other countries with their currency versus American US dollar. So, on that note, before I get into can money buy us happiness, and I'm going to be sharing stories with you of how money has made me feel about being happy and sad, and all of that. We're going to have some endorsements for the sponsors for my podcast, and I'm excited to be able to talk about those. And my first one is Joy Media Group. Joy Media Group is um, awesome friend. Actually, Joy is my producer for this show. And so Joy Media Group can be located at www.joymediagroup.net, and the number is 901-268-8102. And hopefully one day I'll be able to bring her out from behind the scenes and have her talk about her company. But I have known Joy for a while. She's also a board member on my Some Kind of Way Solutions nonprofit team. So it's just a blessing to be able to have her part of my sponsorship for my podcast. And my second endorsement is from Nick Venti. Nick Venti Design is a one-stop shop for mobile apps, animation, and web design. His number is 662-902-9737. And Nick is also a part of my team. He is developing Moneyality website right now. He has awesome ideas. He's very smart, and he does the animation, and I'm going to have some animation on my show, so I'm really excited about that. I'm sorry, on my website. So I love that I have people that are part of a team that wants to grow and be a part of expanding my ideas, which also enhances their project. So I love that. And my other sponsor for tonight is State Farm's Insurance with Kevin White. Kevin has been a phenomenal agent again with me. He manages State Farms, and State Farms is awful popular. I don't have his exact address, but just look up Kevin White with State Farm's Insurance. He handles my car, my house, and he also does my notary coverage. Yes, I am a notary. I should probably start just tagging all of these things as part of my ticker point of all the things that I do. And he also will be insuring my company, because when you're dealing with children, or actually you're dealing with anybody, but especially when you're having children as part of your business, you definitely need to get coverage. And that's just a tip, as DL Hughley would say, from the GED part of GED fans or whatever. Yeah, that it's important that you cover all your bases with that. So now, before we get into Can Money Buy Us Happiness, let's just have a blast of my new intro, guys. Do we
You are
have
listening
that?
to Moneyality with Tanya Collins, the Miss Moneyalogist.
2, 1.
So, and that is also a friend of mine who helped me with those intros. His name is Marlon Macon, and he's an amazing audio engineer, and I appreciate him. So, just totally an amazing team effort to get this podcast done. So, now, guys, let's get into Can Money Buy Us Happiness? There are so many clips out there you can go watch where it's such a unbalance of, can money really buy us happiness? And it all depends. And I thought, how can I use this topic to relate to the Moneyality types? And so, of course, I'm going to start with stories from my life, because those are the truest stories that I know. But has money always brought me happiness? And that is a question that I ponder even right now. Is money really something that's bringing me happiness? And I will tell you, as a keeper is a person that's a saver. It does bring me happiness to know that I am taken care of that. And I tell you, I'm very disciplined, and different discipline to some people probably would say to a fault, but I'm very disciplined. So being able to know that I have access to money has been a blessing to me. Like, I have really felt good about that. And has it brought me happiness? It has. I have not just sat on my money and put it in a bank and said, oh, it's just going to draw those little pennies. I definitely remember when I got my first full-time job at 23, I started doing the stock market, and I got a personal finance guy, and he showed me how to do calls. He made sure I understood what having a stock account was about. So some of the things that I have been doing started in my 20s. Like, it was just easy to start giving money to my personal finance account, to my for my stock account, for my personal portfolio, to start doing that at 23, and to have him to explain all those things to me. So that was joy, to be able to disperse that money out of my personal check at that time and give it, and to see that grow. And so the happiness that I even tell you that came from that, I remember buying Microsoft back then in my 20s. And I think I started off with about maybe 10 shares. And I remember I went up to 50 over the years, not just in my 20s. I'm not really sure about the time span, so let's not hold me to time spans. But I remember when they did a split and I got 100 of them. And so I still have Microsoft. So I was really active in it at that time, but sometimes I think about it was low then. I can't remember how low it was, but at that time it was expensive. But for nowadays dollars, it probably would have been, oh, you should have got 1,000 of them, and maybe I should have. But of course, my income did not support that purchase. But I still have joy that some of my first stocks that I invested in, I still have them in my portfolio. And I know Microsoft is one. I remember I got some of Motorola because of some split from some other company. So I was learning all these different things. So, yes, I was very happy at 23, understanding how to now not just save my money that I had been doing since I was young, but also to invest it. So I started that investing in like my 20s, and that made me happy. And I found so much joy in seeing those numbers. And so now I have talked about it before. I have three personal finance advisors that are doing different things with my money. So I have one who still has that Microsoft account, who actually is the same personal finance officer that started me. So he still has that portfolio. I have since added two additional one, and each one of them do different things. So one of them is really big with annuities and things like that. The other one is with stocks and bonds and things like that. So I definitely have a diversified portfolios, and I'm happy about that, because things that have changed in my life, and I'm just really being transparent tonight for you guys, is that I have a medical condition that I got diagnosed, and like I was 19 or 20, that I had Crohn's disease. And so during the path of understanding that I had Crohn's disease, I always felt that I was thankful that I was disciplined to save money, because for a lot of that time I had no insurance. When I was in college is when I found out. So I didn't have insurance to kind of cover that. And those are things that I'm going to tell you that made me happy. I'm going to tell you this story that makes me happy because of money, and also because of having the idea that being able to talk for myself. And so here it goes. This is a story that is really near and dear to my heart. Is that I was in college when I found out that I had Crohn's disease, and I was really big about paying my bills. Like, I just thought, oh, I did not want to be negligent with that. I did not want to be dismissive. I was always wanting to clear my tab and pay my bills. And so when I got really sick, I remember going to a doctor in Jackson, because again, I was in Mississippi, and I went to a doctor in Jackson, and I couldn't afford him. I couldn't afford him, but he took me even though I didn't have insurance. And I remember trying to pay him $50 a month, or sometimes I would try to pay 100, because when I went to the University of Mississippi, they used to give us, big our after we paid all our tuition and stuff, I would have a refund. And I had a big refund, and that's for a lot of reasons. I mean, those are so many stories about how I had the refund money. That's a whole different story. But just the idea that I did have refund money. And so I kept that money, because remember, I'm very strategic in saving. And so I was paying a little bit, a little bit. And so I will be happy about being able to pay him something, because I felt like that was my bill. Like, I was contributing to making my life simpler without having all this overhead over me. And so I remember the point of when I had to have surgery, right? And I had no insurance at this time either. But my doctor, which his name is Dr. Dothero, I'll never forget him. He did not do my surgery. There was a surgeon that did my surgery. And I'm not always sure about his name, so I kind of leave it off. But he was a really amazing doctor as well. So he did my surgery, granted, no insurance, right? And so the piece of this that is also something that makes me happy about having money or even having access to people that are knowledgeable about ways that you may or may not need money. So sometimes so I'm going to pause there to say that when I ask the question, can money buy happiness? I'm not always talking about the physical currency or the coins. I'm talking about having access to someone that can help you remove barriers of your money. So it doesn't mean that you got to actually have the dollars and cents, because when I say that money can buy me happiness, when somebody waives fees off of you, that's money that is not becoming part of your life that can make you happy. And I was very happy. So I learned from my godmother that I should, number one, apply for disability. And I was in my 20s, like I'm thinking maybe 20 years old. So I'm already thinking that's crazy, but I was really sick. And then number two, she taught me to write personal letters to the doctors, not send them to the office. And back then, guys, we actually had the phone books with all the numbers in them. So if nothing else from tonight, take this lesson and think about it, that you may not be able to do it exactly like I did it, but these are some valuable tips to have. So she told me to go through the phone directory. And at this time, I'm living in a town called Winona, a small town. So I had to find the Jackson, Mississippi Big Thick book and go through that directory to find those doctors. And I found those doctors' personal addresses, and I wrote them personal letters explaining to them my situation of being in college with no insurance. Now, let me tell you how amazing that was. My Dr. Dothero wrote me a letter back and told me that he was waiving all of my medical bills from his office, and that, wow, that's a touching story, that he would hope that I would feel better and that he wished the best for my life. And I was like, wow. I mean, these are real stories of how money has made me happy, because I was able to escape from having that big financial burden. So, yes, money can make me happy. It did. And number two, the other doctor, the surgeon, wrote me a letter and told me that he would waive everything except $600. And wow, $600 from a whole surgical team of people working on me. And the third part of this story is that in the hospital, I just shared this story with my family this weekend, is that in that hospital in Jackson, and I'm not sure if it was Baptist. I get confused. I know where it is in Jackson, but I'm not sure if it's still the same name. But I remember being in the hospital, and there was a social worker that checked me in. And when she was checking me in, she knew that I didn't have insurance. And she told me, she was a middle-aged woman. And I guess, remember, I'm in my early 20s, maybe 20, 21, if that. She told me, she was like, baby, while you're here, I want you to order whatever you want from the menu when they're feeding you. I want you to ask for whatever you need if you're in pain. She says, because your bill is going to be taken care of. This woman didn't know me. I didn't know her. And I was thinking, what? And I remember telling my sister who came to stay with me that she could order whatever she wanted. If she wanted ice cream, sodas, whatever, because I wasn't eating, right? In the hospital, I couldn't have those things. But when they would bring my tray, my sister could eat whatever. And my total bill was waived. Yes, money can make you happy because that is a burden that I never had to carry, right? I never had to carry that burden. And so I'm talking from a keeper's perspective, a person that has saved and saved, but not saved enough to cover medical bills like that. And so the adventurer part of me just was just kind of overwhelmed with that, and kind of thinking like, how can I do something? What risk can I take to make this right or whatever? So remember, I had applied for disability because my godmother had recommended that to me, and I got it at an early age. So I feel like I have totally been blessed with how moneyality and my money personalities have been favored, even though I've had some hardships that I'll tell those stories as well. But that story right there lets me know that the physical idea of currency is things that people try to look to say, oh, that'll make me happy if I had $1 million in the bank and things like that. But can you imagine if you have the right people in your team and you know the right things to do, that you can have your debts removed? That's making you happy. That takes loads off of your shoulders to be able to use the currency that you may have in the bank or wherever you're saving it, in stocks on the mattresses or whatever, to be able to utilize that money. But I thank God right now of how blessed I was, and how those three things, from the two doctors and the hospital, and later on, to finish this story out, I was 23 when a judge granted me disability for my Crohn's disease and gave me the back money, but not even to use for my hospital bills, but to take a letter and go back and pay all those other bills. Yes, I mean, I have been so blessed and happy about those financial things that didn't hinder me, that could have hindered me, because of having the right people in your team. And so I'm on your team. I'm telling you that doctor bills and things like that, you have to be vigilant, but you also just have to ask questions. You need to open your mouths. And if you have insurance, there are bills now that I talk to them about and say, oh, I can't pay that copay. And there are things that I really just can't pay. And you can get a lot of things waived, people. So I'm just telling you, money can make you happy when you use the tools. It's one of my favorite podcasters from back in the day. I know people have had different ideas about him, but I actually listened to Reverend Ike, and he has instilled a lot of positivity in my life by saying, you can't lose with the stuff he uses, because he talks about being able to understand how you feel and think about money can change the direction of how you will get things in life. And so that's one of my stories. And so the final thing before I just start wrapping it up, is that there is research that talks about people having different variations about, can money buy them happiness? And so money, those are not purchases that I had to actually go out and get something in return, but the can it buy me happiness? It bought me happiness, in the idea that those waivers were able to relieve me from debts that could be still a part of my life. Can you imagine, right? And so when I think about the 5 moneyality types, I think about the ones that bring people the most joy. Really, probably are the minglers. The minglers are, remember, the ones I tell you that have the personalities that they are for charitable, um, They are really good at doing charitable things to help people, and minglers enjoy not having to have boundaries. They enjoy life. And that, like I said, that was one of the things one of my guests said, enjoy the journey. And enjoying the journey does not mean to splurge, to take the splurge part of you and just go crazy. No, like that's not what I'm saying at all. But it's okay, as I always say, it's okay to be a splurger, to have self gratification for some things that you really desire, and maybe just one thing that you really desire, but being strategic and also doing some research, as a tracker would do. A tracker is going to research and plan. And trackers and keepers, which I'm a keeper, but also I have a little trackers, like my third one, is that we really have to fight and try to start enjoying our lives, and understanding that it's okay to purchase things that could bring us happiness, or take a trip, or sometimes just the small things. For me, that makes me happy is that I can do something for someone else, known or unknown. I remember our guest from last week when he said that he has done a lot of things unknown and unknown. I remember when I was in Namibia. And I went to this church, and they didn't even have a sign that named their church. And it was just a lot of little things. And I thought, wow, what is it gonna hurt me? What joy could I bring to them to even just have that sign created for them? And I did. And I told the pastor, please do not have me to stand up. I'm not interested in getting any rewards for being able to do a service for someone who needs it, and there were other things that I did, but sometimes my joys of having money and that happiness comes from when I am able to provide for other people. And it doesn't mean that I have had lots and lots of opportunities to be a millionaire, but I have been a millionaire in countries where our dollar is weaker than theirs. And I always love to tell my students that I've been a millionaire. And I said, when I when I visited Ghana, or when I visited Nigeria, I was a millionaire because of their currency. So when people say, "Oh, have you a millionaire?" I'll be like, "Yep, I've been a millionaire before." I didn't say I was a millionaire in America, but I've been a millionaire, and I was able to use those millionaire dollars in those countries to be a joy for somebody else, to really uplift something or someone that I saw there needed to be a need. And so, can money buy us happiness? It sure can. And can money also change how we feel about the joys in our lives? It sure can. So, I gave you an example tonight of how money has bought me happiness by being able to have things lifted off of me, weights of financial burdens being removed. And that is an example of how money can buy you happiness. Money has also bought me happiness by just having the ability to invest into the portfolios and things that I have that are going forward as now. However, someone, again, like a tracker or a keeper, sometimes we struggle with understanding that we have money and we still are not happy. And so those times are when I will say to you, please be mindful on what is it in your mind that's making you feel that way, because it's not normally about the actual amount of money that you don't have. It's probably something that you have felt based on something you expect to have happened that maybe didn't go your way, or something that you chose to do something different in, and that is not the way that you thought it was going to turn out. But most of the time, it's not actually the currency that causes you so much different disappointment or unhappiness or happiness. It's the act of how you handle that currency. And so there's the difference. So a dollar bill cannot just have you give it to me and I'm just going to be so happy or so unhappy. It's those endorphins that come in your mind that think about, wow, like if I give my niece $1, she's going to be excited. She's going to be smiling because she knows that there is something that she wants, that is one step closer to getting it. So that can make her happy. But also, if I come in and I give her a gift that she likes, that was purchased. That was something that I purchased for her that brings her joy. So my overall conclusion as we're going to come to a close, because wow, the time goes by so fast, is that based on how your experiences are with money, Moneyality can help you fine tune what part of you is motivated or unmotivated about your choices in making purchases and things like that. So I'm going to quickly do the takeaways again of the 5 Moneyality types. So when you think about these takeaways, you think about, are these things part of how you really want to experience your life? So the Moneyality types are the splurger, for you to circulate your money less by rethinking the value of your purchase. So when you think about those as takeaways, you can definitely know that in a year, or if you want, you can in a year, will you want that same item, right? So let's make that even bigger. Like, you can remove me from the screen. So as a splurger, you can kind of see that you kind of really want to rethink. And if not, like when you're buying something, is it something that you really want? Will that really make you feel great having a and you know, again, as I say, the takeaways are always have an accountability partner as a splurger to be able to respect where you are, where you think about things, and somebody that'll be really honest with you. And you're always going to hear me in my podcast talk about one of my very best friends, Yolanda. She and I was talking last night, and we just kind of talk and we bounce ideas off. And so there were things that we talked about last night that she said she was going to be trying today. And I'm excited that when I talked to her, that hopefully she was successful in whatever the measure she was going to use to make those things happen. So that is important. You know, as a splurger, you know, circulate your money, and those things can bring you joy and bring you happiness. And when you talk about buy may be the word that we also need to remove. It may be, can money circulate happiness into your life? How about that? Like, we're not buying or spending. Can money circulate happiness in your life? And I'm going to say, yes, it can. And so the keeper, to remove your anxiety, it is suggested that you set an amount for your enough. And I've told you, I've struggled with my enough, but also I have started enjoying my family. This weekend I was in Mississippi. I got to see my uncle, who I love dearly, who had gone through some medical things, and I was so excited to see him. I'm always excited to see my mom, my sister, and just we had a really great meal together. It was just a joy. That I love family. I love my friendships. I love having fun. So I am part of that, because also that adventure part of me. But next is a tracker, which is to use your assets for planning to become maybe a different part of your life. Like, are you really needing to go talk to a financial planner? I mean, don't worry about if I got hundreds of dollars or whatever, because remember, we're going to now switch this around to say, can money circulate happiness into our lives, people. So, as a tracker, you want to relax and come to terms with your control issues. And life is unpredictable. So, stop trying to plan every detail of it. And then the adventurer, you have to kind of streamline your goals and your tasks and your dreams and prevent from being overwhelmed. And that's me. I am clearly sometimes saturating my life with things that are distractions that I truly do not even need to have my mind on, but I use them as buffers to kind of protect myself from the idea, am I moving too fast? Am I going to be a success? And things like that. And that's not even something I should be worried about. I should be worried about how can circulating money bring happiness to not just my life but to other people's lives, and that's where we are on that. And the mingler is the person we already know who enjoys life, and so I'm sure in their mind, can money buy happiness? They're going to say adamant no. I mean, a mingler is probably going to say no, money cannot. But what I am going to tell you is that the idea of circulating money to bring you happiness, I think a mingler can get on board with, because it's important to work with people that's going to help a mingler understand how to handle their money, how to do their taxes, to understand their desires. And they already are wanting to donate to social change and things like that. So it just, for them to save the world, they know that they're going to need this money to be circulated to bring happiness and joy to everyone that they're encountering, whether it's a nonprofit or just going out being a missionary or just whatever aspects of life they are dealing with. So those are the 5 takeaways to Moneyality. And as I always tell you, bear in mind that each type has both good and bad things. But tonight we were talking about, can money buy us happiness? And what I have decided just tonight, being excited, talking to you guys, let's bring me back up. Just talking to you guys, I'm so excited that I have made the conclusion of tonight to say that money can circulate happiness into our lives. And I love that. So look for the t-shirt that's coming, that money can circulate happiness into our lives, because there is no reason that we should not be able to appreciate some of the things that we are thinking that we just got to have money. But like I gave you a perfect example tonight, is that when you have someone that can take a load off of you, take a burden off of you, whether it's an organization, a hospital, I just say credit cards or whatever. Today, I talked to a credit card company and told them, I need you to remove a purchase that's not mine, and you are affecting my credit. And I'm not letting anything go when it comes to that. And I told them, I said, I need to have it in writing. So, you know what? You have to stand up for yourself. You can't just let things go by if you are wanting to continue to improve the way you move with your Moneyality types and with how you move with your money. But do not let the idea that your currency, which are your dollars, your 20s, your 50s, your coins, dictate that happiness. That happiness is based on not only those things, but also on the idea that you can have things circulating to you that come from organizations that help you. So I say, number one, before we leave tonight, is to take advantage of your resources around you. Number two, to really look at your life plan. Where are you headed? Where do you want to go? We have cell phones now where you can write and do your list of things, your to-do list, or you can write them down the old-fashioned way and put them in a journal. But you need to do a deep dive assessment of where you are, where are your goals, where are the weak areas in your life. And number three, It's that we are learning that we are going to be circulating our ideas. We're going to be circulating with our friends, our ideas. Sometimes they say be quiet, and I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, it's always nice to have some advisors or some mentors to help you, guide you through some of the experiences that they've had that may can help you with any stumbling blocks that you are about to encounter. And last is just always find that happiness is not just all the things that I strive for, it's that really that joy. And I wear a peace necklace around my neck. So I'm always about the peace of everything. But that is it for me. And I'm excited that I was able to have this conversation with you. And so please continue to tune in to Moneyality with Tanya Collins, the Miss Moneyalogist. So let's